And so one of the things that I think kind of gets lost in the message here is what that experience is like, um kind of on a day to day. I'll call it the quality of life experience. You mentioned you're surprised, like how frequently do you think the power goes out? I mean, now that you're kind of
Um,
seeing it, and you probably never even thought about it.
so actual outages happen. Um, not all that often. I would say 3 or 4 times a year, and they're usually brief. They're usually 10, 15 minutes. Now we
Right.
just had some storms last week, and we had a brief outage. But then after the storm had passed and the power was restored, there were several times that the Powerwall took over. Now, there wasn't any outage in the neighborhood because I could see other houses still had lights, but there was some power anomaly. So I didn't have to worry about getting a surge or something from the grid because the Powerwall sensed that and took care of it. The other interesting thing about the Powerwall is that uh,
Hmm,
Tesla monitors the weather and sends alerts to your system. So if you are like when there's a severe thunderstorm warning from the National Weather Service, the Powerwall automatically charges to 100%. No matter what time of day it is, it doesn't care how expensive the electricity is, it wants to charge and be ready for you. And then if there's an actual outage, you have that. Something that a lot of people don't understand about solar is that solar requires uh, grid power to work. If you don't have power coming into the house
that's
for
right.
safety reasons, the array shuts down. It will not
Yep.
produce any power if it doesn't sense line pressure coming into it. This is super important because if there's a power outage, right, and you're up on a pole trying to fix something, the last thing you want is power coming from somebody's house back out to the grid, right?
Yeah, ain't that the
So
truth?
with the Powerwall, what happens is the the gateway, not to get too technical, but it senses that there's an outage and it actually takes your house offline. It's a transfer switch. It transfers all control away from the grid. And so it monitors the grid, but you're not connected to it anymore. Then the battery produces the power that you need for your house and the power necessary for the solar panels to work. So here's the scenario: you lose power at 3 in the morning and it doesn't come back on again. Well, the battery is going to keep you powered up in your house. And when the sun comes up at 7 o'clock, it's going to tell the solar panels to produce power and it's going to recharge the battery. So not only do you get through your temporary outage, but if you had an extended outage and you reduced the power that you consume in your house, you could potentially go for days without power just from solar and the battery.
That's awesome. That is really a great explanation, David. Can I hire you for our sales team, man? I think
Yeah, well,
I think
I used to do selling, so I could probably do that. We have a
you
house in,
really got this.
it's so hard to get this across too because we have a house in Florida, and our neighbor just put in a generator, and I said, "Why'd you do a generator?" And he's like,
Hmm.
"Well, because we're out of power for a couple of days." I said, "I'm putting in a power wall," and he's, "Well, how long does it last?" I said, "It only has to last until the sun comes up, because once the sun comes up, it recharges." And this guy
Yep.
was an engineer, right? I would think he would have gotten it, and he still looked at me like I had two heads, like he couldn't figure out what I was saying. It's like, no, it's forever. And by the way, those kilowatts you're producing with dyno fuel, that's expensive power, man. That's real
Yeah.
expensive. Do the math.
Yep. Yep. Wow. It's great that you've gone so deep on this and that you really set it up in a way that not only gives you resiliency but a great financial return on your investment. So
Much better
that's
than I
awesome.
thought. And I will say that it's better than Dan forecast for me. So that you guys, do a pro forma of what you could expect on your return time. My return time is going to be far less than what you had predicted.